You're welcome. Hi everybody, it's Michael Buckley and welcome to a new episode of The Struggles is Real. This is my friend Bret Shuford. Hey Bret!
Hi Michael.
Bret is a Broadway star. Bret is a YouTuber. Tell everybody you're in Broadway. Tell everybody about the show you're in.
I'm in Cirque du Soleil's Paramore on Broadway.
What's that? Paramore. Tell us about the show.
Well, it's Cirque du Soleil Theatrical's newest production. It's their first time doing a show on Broadway.
What do you do in the show? What is your role?
I play Robbie, the choreographer.
Wow. What's your opening line? What do you say?
What is my first line?
When you walk up, what is that first impression?
The first impression is, wow, he looks really gay.
That's what you say?
No, I don't say that.
Are you playing really gay?
I don't have to do anything. The costume kind of does it for me.
Oh my god.
You need to come see.
Are you a homosexual? Are you coming out? Is this your coming out video?
No.
Oh, he's not. No, he's playing. He's gay for pay.
There's no surprises
No.
here.
He's married to a man too. Hi, Steven.
Hi, Steven.
And tell everybody about your YouTube channel.
It's at Bret Shuford. It's Bret with one T.
He didn't need that other T.
That's right. I keep it simple.
Yeah.
And it's I'm vlogging right now. I'm trying to do a vlog a day for a year.
With your husband.
With my husband, and we also do something we call 5 Things, where we talk about certain events or subjects and we rate our top 5 things about those. So we just posted one yesterday about the Tony Awards, which we're on Sunday night.
Fun.
Yeah.
Well, I'll put a link below to your channel.
Thank you.
And we'll make a video for your channel too, so we'll put a link to that when that's up. But on this show, I am talking about challenges and struggles and obstacles. So, what have you been in life? What do you think are the biggest things you've had to overcome, and how did you overcome them? When in a life were you set with a challenge, or what did you think growing up? Tell me everything.
Oh, well, there's a lot.
Go ahead.
Well, I grew up in Texas. So
that's a challenge
that's a
right there.
Right there.
Oh, man.
Actually, like in hindsight, I'm proud of being from Texas, but growing up there was tough.
Mm-hmm.
And but for me, I think probably the biggest challenge was I dealt with addiction for a really long time. I was a alcoholic and a drug addict, and I've been sober now for going on 13 years.
Oh my God, congratulations.
Thank you.
So you were young, because you're like 30 now. You're 13 when you went to high school in Texas in the 19.
Yeah.
No, 13 years sober. So I mean, how did you get sober? Why did you get sober? What was your rock bottom come to Jesus moment that realized that you had to stop?
I think part of it was after 9/11, I was pretty depressed and was living in Manhattan alone. I was in my early 20s, and I came to New York to have a career on Broadway. That was like the one thing I wanted to do, and I just couldn't seem to like get there. I couldn't figure out, like, I just felt like I wasn't meeting my potential, and I couldn't figure out why. And I was really down and out and broke, and working but not making it.
So did that lead you to drugs and alcohol, or were you drugs and alcoholic and that led you to not getting jobs, or was it a combination?
I think it's hard to say what came first, but I think part of it was that I was numbing my feelings, because I was dealing with a lot of shame and guilt from growing up gay, dealing with a lot of fear and codependency was a big one for me, because I have I have a twin brother, and so we'd always been together our whole lives, and then now we weren't, and I was trying to figure out who I was without being defined by that, who I was not being defined as a working actor because I wasn't working, and it was really struggling to find who I was, and I was filling that void with drugs and alcohol and sex and lots of other stuff. How did you get sober? Yeah, so I ended up running into a girl that I took an acting class with, and she was like, "What's going on?" And I was like, "Ugh," and I just kind of went into this whole spiel about how miserable I was, and she was like, "You need help."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Well, yeah, I can't afford help," because I thought she meant therapy.
Right.
And so she said to call the Actors Fund. Do you know the Actors Fund?
Yeah.
And I called the Actors Fund, and it was sort of like that scene in Ghostbusters, I think, where they were like, "We got one!"
We've been waiting for you.
And they helped me find a therapist, and then when I was going to therapy, I would go into therapy, and I'd be like, "I blacked out like twice this week. I don't know why that keeps happening."
Right.
And he was like, do you think maybe you have a drinking problem? And I was like, no, it's not the drinking.
Right.
It's my mom.
Right,
it's
right.
this.
Right.
He just sat there and waited until I finally was like, well, I remember he said, if that's all it is, then why don't you try not drinking for 30 days?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay. And I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it. I think I went like a week.
Yeah.
And I was like, maybe there is a problem.
Right.
And then I had a friend of mine who I knew was sober, and he was like, and I reached out to him, and he was like, I said, I'm going to try this not drinking. I'm going to try not drinking, no drugs. I was a big pot smoker. I was like, I'm going to try not drinking, no drugs for 30 days. And he said, remember, if you don't have to do it alone.
Mm-hmm.
And that was huge advice for me, because then when I got to about, I don't know, 7 days,
Yeah.
I looked up a meeting and started going to 12-step meetings. And that was a huge shift in my life. Because then I started to realize I wasn't alone.
Mm-hmm.
I started to find like a community and like a level of spirituality, and that held me accountable too. And just like one day at a time,
Right.
I got sober, and I've stayed sober ever since.
Well, that's amazing.
And that's how I met my husband.
In a 12-step program.
Yeah.
Do they encourage you not to date, or does it matter
No.
after you're sober for like a year? Or
Right.
what's that work?
Yeah. That's sort of there's no rules,
Yeah.
but there's suggestions.
Yeah.
And I met Steven within, a year of his sobriety.
Right.
He won't, I don't think he'll care. We both, we're open about our sobriety. And I was trying to like put it off. I was so like, if you see a picture of him, he's gorgeous. And I was just so like, but I was like, no, he doesn't have a year. He doesn't have a year. He doesn't have a year. We got about 11 months in.
Yeah. But over the last 13 years, I mean, your quality of life has improved. You're working a lot. You have a husband, so you see the benefits of not drinking, not doing drugs. Is there any time over the last 13 years that you were triggered a little bit, like, oh, I'd sure like a drink right now, or is that a daily thing, or are you completely over that?
I think sometimes I think it's a daily thing. Everything's a daily thing, right? I mean, what the struggle is real.
Yes, every day.
It's a choice on the every day whether or not I choose to drink or not drink. But for me, what ended up happening, sort of, kind of these signs, the universe, like you were talking to me in the car today about the universe of answering back. The universe said to me, I booked my first Broadway show within 3 months of getting sober.
Because the universe wasn't ready to give you a Broadway show because you were kind of a mess.
Yeah, or I wasn't just, I think also I just wasn't meeting my potential, and it was somehow getting clarity and getting clear and getting authentic to who I was supposed to be, because I don't necessarily think I was living authentically. I think I was trying to be this person that my parents wanted me to be, or that I thought everybody else wanted me to be.
Right.
And all of a sudden I started doing this work, this internal work, and finding out who I wanted to be. And then I booked a Broadway show, and I was like, oh, well, maybe this is the right choice,
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'm going to keep going. And then I met Steven, and of course there's been like down times, but the struggles in sobriety for me, like the worst day sober is still better than my best day drunk.
So how do you cope now instead of drinking and sex? If you have a problem, what are your strategies to handle these problems on a daily basis?
I have lots of, I have a network of people that I reach out to.
Do you still go to meetings?
Still go to meetings. Yeah. I pray. I have like a spiritual practice, so it's either meditation or prayer. And I try to be of service. Like that's a big thing for me, is that even if it's like performing in the show, I like allow I let that be an act of service.
Yeah.
As opposed to needing to do it for accolades.
Yeah, I feel the same way about making videos now too. How it's the same thing. It's like I'm not doing this for likes and comments and to become famous on YouTube. I'm doing this because I see the greater good of people sharing their stories. And if one person is watching and gets something out of it, well, it was worth it.
Yeah,
Same with
totally.
Broadway. You go to Broadway and it's like I'm having a bad day or I'm going through a life crisis. I've talked about that show If Then. and I've watched it 4 times because it meant so much to me as what I was going through in life. So it's a gift to be able to do videos or perform or anything, service and anything you're doing.
Well, yeah, and especially this week with everything that happened in Orlando, there's. And I remember after 9/11, I was in rehearsals for a show, and I remember this week sort of reminded me of that. I think I had a lot of emotions that sort of flooded back from that, and you kind of go, well, you have this immediate reaction that's like, well, what's the point? What I'm doing on stage, this circus thing that I'm doing is so trivial when there's people dying. Right. But there's still 2,000 people in the audience who need to have their spirits lifted, who need to have their minds taken off of it. And I get to do that. Yeah. And that's such a gift. And I think that's what shifted for me as a performer in getting sober, is that it shifted from me needing validation and sex too, all that, I needed validation. It shifted from that to how can I connect? How can I be of service to others? And how can I, because that's really, I think, what the human experience is. Yeah. If people can connect and feel like they exist, right? Which you do, you exist, and we see you, and we thank you for existing. That is really what life is about.
It's funny because I know people are watching this who've been watching me, and they're looking at you and they're thinking, oh my God, this is what Buck was talking about 2 months ago. And I used the word that said I was numbing with alcohol, I was numbing with sex, and I still am to an extent, but I have a much better control and handle on it. And but it's interesting because I'm talking about going to therapy. So it's interesting to hear you say that out loud, because and the universe makes no accidents. And again, the reason that we're connecting now and you're telling me this is because, I needed to hear this today. So it's interesting. It's like I'm listening, I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting so much out of this. So thank you.
I am too, actually. Yes. This is really healing for me.
Very healing.
Yay.
All right, well, we're gonna make a video for Bret's channel, so thank you for watching, and check him out, links below. And if you're in New York, by all means, go see him in Paramore. And thanks for watching. Bye.
Bye.
That was really good.
Yay!
That was really good.
That was real.
Oh my God.